Roald Dahl, The Witches, illustrated by Quentin Blank. And your mother? She's terrified of mouse, Brenda said. Then you've got a problem, haven't you? Why only me, he said. What about you? My grandmother will understand perfectly, I said. She knows all about witches. Bruno took another bite of his sandwich. What do you suggest? He said. I suggest we both go first of all and consult my grandmother, I said. She'll know exactly what to do. I moved towards the doors, which were standing open. Bruno, still grasping part of the sandwich in one paw, followed after me. When you get out into the corridor, I said, we're going to run like mad. Stick close to the wall all the way and follow me. Do not talk and do not let anyone see you. Don't forget that just about anyone who catches sight of you will try to kill you. I snatched the sandwich out of his paw and drew it away. Here it goes, I said. Keep behind me. Hello, Grandmama. As soon as I was out of the ballroom, I took off like a flash. I streaked down the corridor, went through the lounge, and the reading room, and the library, and the drawing room, and came to the stairs. Up the stairs I went, jumping quite easily from one to the other, keeping well against the wall all the time. Are you with me, Brunner? I whispered. Right here, he said. My grandmother's room and my own were on the 5th floor. It was quite a climb, but I made it without meeting a single person on the way because everyone was using the lift. On the 5th floor, I raced along the corridor to the door of my grandmother's room. A pair of her shoes were standing outside the door to be cleaned. Bruno was alongside with me. What do we do now? He asked. Suddenly, I caught a sight of Clambermaid coming along the corridor toward us. I saw at once that she was the one who had reported me to the manager for keeping white mouse. Not, therefore, the sort of person I wanted to meet in my present condition. Quick, I said to Bruno, hide in one of the shoes. I hopped into one shoe and Bruno hopped into the other. I waited for the maid to walk past us. She didn't. When she came to the shoes, she bent down and picked them up. In doing this, she put her hand right inside the one I was hiding in. When one of her fingers touched me, I bit it. It was a silly thing to do, but I did it instantly, without thinking. The maid let out a scream that must have been heard just far out to the English Channel, and she dropped the shoes and ran like a wind down the corridor. My grandmother's door opened. What on earth is going on out here? She said. I darted between your legs into the room and Bruno followed me. Close the door, Grandmama, I cried. Please hurry. She looked around and saw 2 small brown lights on the carpet. Please close it, I said. And this time she actually saw me talking and recognized my voice. She froze and became absolutely motionless. Every part of her body, her fingers and hands, and arms and head, became suddenly as stiff as a marble statue. Her face turned even paler than marble, then eyes were stretched so wide I could see the witch's whitest all around them. Then she started to tremble. I thought she was going to faint and fall over. Please close the door quickly, Grandmama, I said. That awful maid might come in. She somehow managed to gather herself together enough to close the door. She leaned against it, saw tears to come out of her eyes and go dribbling down her cheeks. Don't cry, Grandmama, I said. Things could be a lot worse. I did get away from them, and I'm still not alive. So it's Bruno. Very slowly, she bent down and picked me up with one hand. Then she picked Bruno up with the other hand and put us both on the table. There was a bowl of bananas in the center of the table, and Bruno jumped straight into it and began tearing away with his teeth at one banana skins to get the fruit inside. My grandmother grasped the arm of her chair to steady herself, but her eyes never left me. Sit down, dear Grandmama, I said. She collapsed into her chair. Oh, my darling, she murmured, and now the tears were nearly streaming down her cheeks. Oh, my poor sweet darling, what have they done to you? I know what they've done, Grandmama, and I know what I am. Funny thing is that I don't honestly feel especially bad about it. I don't even feel angry. In fact, I feel rather good. I know I'm not a boy any longer, and I never will be again. But it'd be quite all right as long as there are always you to look after me. I was not just trying to console her. I was being absolutely honest about the way I felt. You may think it odd that I wasn't weeping myself, that's all. I simply cannot explain it. Of course I'll look after you, my grandmother murmured. There's another one. That was a boy called Bruno Jenkins, I told her. They got him first. My grandmother took a new long black cigarette out of the case on a handbag and put it in her mouth. Then she got out of her bag some matches. She struck a match, but her fingers were shaking so much that the flame kept missing the end of the cigarette. When she got it lit at last, she took a long pull and sucked in the smoke. This seemed to calm her down a bit. Where did it happen? She whispered. Where did the witch now? Is she in the hotel? Grandmama, I said. It wasn't just one. It was hundreds. They're all over the place. They're right here in the hotel at this very moment. She leaned forward and stared at me. You don't mean to tell they're holding an annual meeting right here in the hotel? They've held it, Grandmama. It's finished. I heard it all, and all of them, including the Grand High Witch herself, are downstairs now. They're pretending they're a Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. They're all having tea with the manager. Or they caught you? And they caught you? They smelled me out, I said. Dog soaping was it? She said, sighing. I'm afraid so, but it wasn't strong. They very nearly did smell me because I hadn't had a bath for ages. Children should never have baths, my grandmother said. It's a dangerous habit. I agree, Grandmama. She paused, sucking at her cigarette. You really mean to tell me that they are now downstairs having tea? She said. I'm certain of it, Grandmama. There was another pause. I could see the old gallon of excitement slowly coming back into Grandmother's eyes. And all of a sudden, she sat up very straight in her chair and said sharply, Tell me everything, right from the beginning, and please hurry. I took a deep breath and began to talk. I told about going to the ballroom and hiding behind the screen to do my math training. I told about the notice the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. I told her all about the woman coming in and sitting down and about the small woman who appeared on the stage and took off her mask. But when it came to describing what her face looked like underneath the mask, I simply couldn't find the right words. It was horrible, Grandmama, I said. Oh, it was so horrible. It was like something that was going to rotten. Go on, said Grandmother. Don't stop. Then I told her all about all the others talking of their wigs and their gloves and their shoes, and how I saw before me a sea of both pimply heads, and now how the woman's fingers had little claws, and how their feet had no toes. My grandmother had come forward now in her armchair so that she was sitting right on the edge of it. Both of her hands were cupped over the gold knob of the stick that she always used when walking, and she was staring at me with eyes bright as two stars. Then I told her how the Grand High Witch has shot out fairly white hot sparks, and how they had turned one of the other witches into a puff of smoke. I've heard about that, my grandmother cried out excitedly, but I never quite believe it. You're the first witch ever to see it happening. It's the Grand High Witch's most famous punishment. It's known as getting fired, and all the other witches are petrified of having it done to them. I'm told that the Grand High Witch makes it a rule to fry at least one witch at each annual meeting. She does it in order to keep the rest of them onto their toes. But they don't have any toes, Grandmama. I know they don't, my darling, but please go on. So then I told my grandmother about the delayed action mouse maker, and when I came to the bit about turning all the children of England into mouse, she actually leapt out of her chair shouting, I knew it! I knew they were bringing up something tremendous! We got to stop them, I said. She turned and stared at me. You can't stop witches, she said. So look at the power and terrible Grand High Witch it has in her eyes alone. She could kill any of us at any time with this white hot sparks of hers. You saw it yourself. Even so, Grandmama, we've still got to stop her from turning all children of English into mice. You haven't quite finished, she said. Tell me about Bruno. How did they get him? So I described how Bruno Jenkins had come in and how I had actually seen him with my own eyes being shrunk into a mouse. My grandmother looked at Bruno and scuffling away the bowl of bananas. Does he never stop eating? She asked. Never, I said. Can you explain something to me, Grandmama? I'll try, she said. She reached out and lifted me off the table and put me on her lap. Very gently, she began stroking the soft fur along my back. I felt nice. "What is it you want to ask me, my darling?" she said. "The thing I didn't understand," I said. "It's how Bruno and I are still able to talk and think just as we did before. It's quite simple," my grandmother said. "All they've done is to shrink you and give you 4 legs and a fur coat, but they haven't been able to change you into the 100% mouse. You're still yourself and everything except your appearance. You still got your own mind and your own brain and your own voice, and thank goodness for that. So I'm not really an ordinary mouse after all," I said. "I'm sort of the mouse person." "Quite right," she said. "You're a human in mouse clothing. You're very special." We sat there in silence for a few moments while my grandmother went on, stroking me very gently with her one finger and puffing her cigar with the other hand. The only sound in the room was made by Bruno as he attacked the bananas in the bowl. But it wasn't doing nothing as it lay there on her lap. I was thinking like mad. My brain was whizzing as it had never whizzed before. "Grandmama," I said, "I may have a bit of an idea." "Yes, my darling, what is it?" "The grandma witch told them her room was number 454, right?" "Right," she said. "Well, my room is number 554. Mine, 554, is on the 5th floor, so hers, 454, will be on the 4th floor." "That's correct," my grandmother said. "Then don't you think it's possible that room 454 is directly underneath room 554? "That's more than likely," she said. "These modern hotels are built like boxes of bricks. But what if it is?" "Would you please take me out to the balcony so I can look down?" I said. All the rooms in the Hotel Magnificent had small private balconies. My grandmother carried me through into my own bedroom and out onto my balcony. We both peered down to the balcony immediately below. "Now, if that is her room," I said, "then I'll bet I could climb down there somehow and get in." "And get caught all over again," my grandmother said. "I won't allow it." At this moment, I said, "all the witches are down at the Sunshine Terrace having tea with the manager. The Grand High Witch probably won't be back until 6 o'clock or just before. That's when she's going to dish out the supplies for full formula to the ancient ones who are too old to climb trees of the girls' eggs." "And what if you didn't manage to get into her room?" my grandmother said. "What then?" "Then I should try to find the place where she keeps her supply of the late action mouse sneaker, and if I succeed then, I will steal 1 bottle of it and bring it back here." "Could you carry it?" "I think so," I said. "It is a very small bottle." "I'm frightened of this stuff," my grandmother said. "What would you do if you managed to get it?" "Get it? 1 bottle is enough for 500 people," I said. "It'll give each and every witch down there double dust at least. We could turn them all into mouse." My grandmother jumped up with an itch in the air. We were out of a balcony, and there was a drop of about 1,000,000 feet below us, and I very nearly bounced off her hand before the railings when she jumped. "Be careful with me, Grandmama," I said. "What an idea!" she cried. "It's fantastic! It's tremendous! You're a genius, my darling!" "Wouldn't it be something?" I said. "Wouldn't that really be something?" "We'd get rid of every witch in England in one swoop," she cried, "and the Grand High Witch into the bargain." "We've got to try it," I said. "Listen," she said, nearly dripping me over the balcony once again in excitement. "If we brought this off, it would be the greatest dream in the whole history of witchery." "There's a lot of work to do," I said. "Of course there's a lot of work to do," she said. "Just for the start, supposing you did manage to get hold of 1 of those bottles, how would you get into their food?" "We'll work that out later," I said. "Let's try to get the stuff first. How can you find out for sure if that's her room just below us?" "We shall check it out immediately," my grandmother cried. "Come along, there's not a second to waste." Carrying me in one hand, she kept bustling out of the bedroom and along the corridor, banging her stick down the carpet with each step she licked. We went down the stairs 1 flight to the 4th floor. The bedrooms on either side of the corridor had their numbers painted on the doors in gold. Here it is, my grandmother cried. Number 454. She tried the door. It was locked, of course. She looked up and down the long, empty hotel corridor. I don't believe you're right, she said. This room is almost certainly directly below yours. She marched back along the corridor, counting the number of doors from the Grand High Witch's room to the staircase. There were 6. She climbed back up to the 5th floor and repeated the exercise. She is directly below you, my grandmother cried out. Her room is right below yours. She carried me back into my own bedroom and went down once again onto the balcony. That's her balcony down there, she said. And what's more, the door from the balcony into the bedroom is wide open. How are you going to climb down? I don't know, I said. Our rooms are in front of the hotel, and they look down onto the beach and the sea. Immediately below my balcony, thousands of feet below, I could see a fence of spike railings. If I fell, I'd be goner. I've got it, my grandmother cried. With me in her hand, she rushed back to her own room and began rummaging the chests of the drawers. She came out with a ball of blue knitting wool. One end of it was attached to some needles and a half-finished sock she had been knitting for me. This is perfect, she said. I shall put you in a sock and lower you down onto the Grand High Witch's balcony. But you must hurry. Any moment now, the monster will be returning to her room. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe me and have a great day. Bye-bye.